Hey guys, and welcome to another episode. Dominic here. So on today's episode, I'm going to finish out the clutch replacement on my Saab 9.3 Aero Sport Combi. So on picking up from last episode where I left off, I was just waiting on parts to change out the thermostat housing on my car. So initially, I just got a gasket. There's not a lot of room to work in there. I wasn't able to clean it real well, and the new gasket started leaking. I thought to myself, with how difficult it was to change, that I would go ahead and just replace the entire housing and both the O-rings for the coolant pipes that go to the housing, just so I don't have to worry about it anymore, because it looks like a nightmare to do with the transmission in the car. So I definitely recommend doing that if you're changing your clutch. So I finally got those parts in. The gaskets for the coolant pipes were just like AC Delco parts, so those were pretty easy to come by. And the housing, it took a while to get through, but it was pretty cheap. It was only like $50 or something for the new housing and thermostat. So I definitely recommend doing that while you're in there, because it looks like a nightmare to do with everything back together, because it's right above the transmission, below the turbocharger. It's just like squeezed in there. So I think you could probably get it loose and get it back enough where you could change out the gasket, but removing the coolant pipes and removing the housing, there just wouldn't be a ton of work. And then also there's some stuff you have to loosen kind of on the back and front side of the engine, which with the subframe in, I don't know, it might be hard to do that. So yeah, I definitely recommend doing that. But anyways, this episode I'm going to be putting the transmission back in. I will say the one part of this that I didn't film really well was the actual stabbing of the transmission. I had my friend Ryan come over and help me, so thank you to him for helping out. But really there was nothing too different than the reverse of the removal. The one kind of trick there is just putting your driver's side axle back in so you can turn the transmission and get it to line up, and then you can use a screwdriver and the brake rotor on the passenger side to line that up, and then just line it up and shake it as best you can, and eventually it will pop in. But from then on, I did a pretty good job, I think, filming everything. So with that, let's get to it. It might be worth investing in or borrowing a torque wrench that has an angle function for this job, as pretty much every bolt has a torque and then angle spec. Even if your control arms aren't completely worn, it's probably a good time to change them out while you have the subframe mount, as it makes it a little bit easier. Also, learn from my mistake and make sure you put the rear torque mount in before you put the subframe in, as you cannot add the torque mount later. I had to drop the subframe a second time in order to put the mount in. The guide pin for my radiator support was broken, so I plastic welded mine back together. And for the first time in a month, my engine is finally supporting its own weight. And here's the one and only mod that I am doing. This is a shifter reinforcement kit sold by Genuine Saab Parts. Definitely increased the shifter feel for the car. Don't forget to refill your gearbox oil. Here I am bleeding my slave cylinder. This would also be a good time to go ahead and flush all your brake fluid. Please be smarter than me and wear gloves while cleaning your battery box. I burned myself once while cleaning the battery box, and then a second time when I was handling the bolts that had acid on them as well. So do yourself a favor and don't be an idiot like me. I was doing my checks to make sure the car was ready to run and completely forgot that I had put these microfiber towels in the intake tubes. And yeah, I sucked microfiber into my intake. Luckily, there was this like additional air filter that Saab puts in here right before the mass airflow sensor that saved my turbo. So don't be a dumbass like me, and Saab, that's some really good engineering right there. Out with the old useless K&N filter and in with the proper paper filter. As with all the new to me cars, I performed a liquid moly engine flush and added some Ceratec with the new oil. While the oil was draining, I went ahead and changed out my sway bar end links. Here you can see how bad my old end links were. this final episode. Finally, the car is back on the road and it's driving great. Clutch is no longer slipping, and the whatever weird steering sensation I had before is fixed. I think it was probably those worn sway bar links, but also it could have been the worn motor mount or worn controller bushings. This car was definitely in need of some TLC, so I'm pretty happy that I was able to get in there and replace all that stuff because it's driving a lot better, and I think it's going to be good to go for quite some time. So I hope you guys like this video series. This is by far not the end. There's way more stuff I need to do and want to do to the car. I'm probably going to end up, even though I don't think it needs it right away, I'll probably end up doing suspension refresh on it too. Probably not an upgrade because this car is just going to be a daily driver for me. Just probably some Bilstein B4s. Replace those, fix the front lip that's missing, some interior trim pieces and exterior trim pieces that need addressing, and that's probably it. I'm probably just going to leave it stock. This car is already insanely fast compared to what I'm used to because I do the drive my all-track right now, and then previous to that was my 1.9 TDI, so this car with 250 horsepower, and I forget exactly how much torque it has, but it feels immensely more powerful than either of those cars. So yeah, stay tuned for those upcoming episodes. Hopefully it won't be too long before I start working on some more stuff. So as always, if you guys really like this, go ahead and like and subscribe so I can share it with more people. All right, thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.